Hey everyone, John Frechette here, CEO of Moara, Moara.io. That stands for Mother of All Research Assistants. I'm asked pretty regularly about research writing, and typically when I'm going through preparing for a session like this one, I'll do a few hours of research, sifting through maybe social media perspectives, going through obviously my own prior knowledge, looking through academic papers. I went through a similar process here, but the difference is going on a bit of a crusade. This is probably the hardest, let's say, topic I've attempted to tackle when it comes to coming up with general rules of thumb, guidelines, frameworks for people thinking about using AI in their research writing. Writing is, I would imagine, kind of one of the most variable parts of the research process. Everyone has a different way they approach it. And frankly, even after you hear some of these rules of thumb and whatnot, that will still be the case. The writing process really needs to be your own. But nonetheless, when I started to look through um, different sort of social media perspectives and whatnot here, I found some key themes, and probably a lot of people have seen it before. And I would say the writing advice out there is helpful but incomplete. So, a couple things you'll see often. One is you click on a research writing video or whatever, you get the outline of a paper. And if you've never read a paper, you don't know academic papers well, that's helpful. Introduction, methodology, results, discussion, conclusion, abstract. So that's helpful, but that's probably the most prominent one. And then I would say the other one are some people working on some creative things around how to, in short, add context to your models fairly quickly and precisely, and then basically just use your models, your AI LLMs, to create drafts of papers. So something I saw recently was the idea that you would turn every paper in your library just into a one sentence summary, and then you would basically plug that into ChatGPT or Claude and ask for a paragraph synthesizing those papers. So, yeah, kind of interesting, but that's not real research, right? That's maybe a very good starting point, but it's a very difficult question to answer, which is how do you actually approach serious research writing for your dissertation, say? And I do think the central research question is really this: is it ever okay in a serious piece of research to use AI to outright draft writing outputs? That is, it does not start from your own words. It is purely, draft this paragraph for me. And yes, there's always going to need to be a key theme is you're always going to need to check that, obviously, and check it rigorously. Just like if you're doing your own writing, you should have an LLM there to check your writing as well. But is that ever okay? I really think that's kind of the key question. Can we just fully automate the writing process? One thing I'll say as maybe a spoiler alert is I do feel like in this discussion, we're often forgetting that whether you want to call it writing or however you want to describe putting text on paper, we often forget that is for primarily the benefit of others, future researchers reading our work. That's not primarily for us. Yes, there's some benefits for us, but it's mostly for others. So it's not that ridiculous of a concept that we might not write down, maybe in the form that's best consumed by others. So the thought experiment that I put in that letter in my LinkedIn post today and whatnot is a thought experiment where you think about, say, a Claude chat. So how we operate with Claude is that we've got projects, we got chats, we come back to these chats regularly, we pin them. So I'll have something I'm constantly working on and coming back to. Let's pretend you had one called methodology. And in that methodology chat, you were constantly, maybe for weeks or even months, you're coming back to that chat, you're attaching new papers that you found, asking questions about the models in those papers, you're, you know, talking through trade-offs in terms of what control variables or instrumental variables you're going to use. Maybe you're doing things like plugging in the syntax of the statistical modeling software you're using, going back and forth, etc. So look, let's pretend that ends up with 100 to 200 queries that you send in short, and then you've got that methodology chat. The question I want to ask is there really any question, is there any doubt that if you were to then task in that chat at the end of it all, say, if you were to task it with creating a methodology section of your paper, is there any scenario where that's not valuable? The answer, in my view, is no. That would absolutely be a wonderful description of your methodology. It would have everything you need. It's up to you what actually goes in the methodology section, but you could hypothetically have why you selected one um, type of model versus another. Everything related to what papers you can trace this back to, etc. And I think there's a pretty good shot that that would actually be a better description and communicate your methodology better than it would be the case if you wrote it yourself. So, look, it's only one case. I'm not going to pretend this is enormously scientific, but we've got that one question, that one case study. My choice is to infer a lot from that. So, what I really come up with as a result is basically two strategies for writing. The first one is what I just described, and that would be kind of AI first. And again, I put together these guidelines a little bit in the LinkedIn post and customer IO post. Feel free to email me, john@moara.io, if you want to see the full thing. But AI first, of course, involves just making sure you're putting in an enormous amount of context before you're asking a given chat conversation to summarize or to pump out a writing output. You need a massive amount of context. As I mentioned, most, I would say, approaches out there make sure you put in some context in the form of, say, papers, but just not enough. In short, yes, it's much better to get a writing output after you've uploaded a few papers, but what's really great is what I mentioned, a huge amount of going back and forth in terms of methodologies and results and whatnot, and then from there you can draft it. The rule of thumb I put into the letter is that roughly the size of the writing output corresponds with the amount of context that you've plugged in, right? And so, indeed, if you put in one paper, say, in a Claude literature review chat, or for that matter, a Moara literature review chat, um, then it's appropriate maybe to get one sentence from that, versus if you were to import 50 papers and you were to go through a long process to actually talk through, what are the key themes here? Okay, this doesn't really make sense. How does this differ from that one? All of that good context, all of that thinking, all of that research, you stamping your um, creativity on that chat, in short, that can hypothetically then produce a full literature review section. So that would be my instinct. Write first, of course, is that you write first. Now, of these two, in case you're wondering, the second is my approach. I'm someone who is constantly using, obviously, all sorts of LLM tools, AI tools like Claude, ChatGPT, but also our tool, vertical tools for statistical modeling. And yet, it is the case that my approach is I generally do a lot of research and thinking first, and then I like the first writing outputs to be in my own words. And then from there, I'm using, say, a Claude to clean it all up. The way I describe the write first approach is that when you're writing as a human, I would almost describe it as lower probability, higher impact outputs. So I think there's a much better shot of you as an expert researcher in your field producing a really amazing innovation, or something that's totally novel, a brand new insight, something, a contradiction in the literature. That's much more likely to come from you than it is to come from ChatGPT. However, you can also make mistakes, right? You can forget about certain papers. You can misremember which paper had which result. You can, by accident, misrepresent a paper. You can have grammar mistakes, all sorts of issues. So I think I would almost say, for the kind of more mechanical stuff, stapling citations onto a statement and whatnot, you can decide, but I think that is something that's more AI first. And something like the discussion section of a paper, as I'll get into, really coming up with a brand new insight, that's going to be more right first, human first. I mean, let me be a little more concrete here. If I'm thinking about the sections of a paper, look, everyone's going to have a different approach, but let me just say high level in general. Sections of a paper, I've often said methodology and results is maybe more AI. Indeed, those are very mechanical processes. Yes, there is some cool creativity that goes into selecting a methodology and finding a really cool new data set. Okay, looking through the variable fields in those data sets. But that's relatively mechanical. Reporting on results is the same thing. For me, reporting on results really is, you've got maybe some quantitative results, maybe it's a regression table. It is a science, not an art, when it comes to communicating those concisely and clearly. A real science that, in my view, a tool like Claude is much better at than I am better at. Okay, so how do we concisely and as efficiently as possible communicate results without, say, readers getting lost, without having run-on sentences, etc.? Discussion, conclusion, intro. Let me especially focus on discussion. That is where the critical thinking comes out. Look, I'd love to have a perfect formula for this, but that is what I would just say. Critical thinking, your own opinions, your own hypotheses, your own free form. I often like to say that literally how you write a key takeaway, right? How you write an insight, how you write a finding in the literature, the extent to which you emphasize or the amount of confidence that you communicate about a finding, those are all, you could call them micro contributions. So again, if you said the effects of X on Y are positive, versus if you said, I don't know, the effects of X or Y are based on an enormous amount of literature, maybe it's even underappreciated what a confident finding that is, what a solid finding that is in the literature. That's a contribution. So the discussion section, conclusion, intro, I think those are kind of very crucial. Part of the reason for the intro abstract I might put in this as well is um, I think something like the intro, that is going to be obviously sometimes what readers first view on the paper. That is something you should write in your own words. There should be some emotion. There should be some creativity put into those sections. You want to capture people versus results, methodology in particular. That's going to be something people go through to make sure they understand how you got to what you got to. That's not going to hook people, I don't think. Literature review, I'd put it right in the middle. I mean, it would be kind of frankly hypocritical for me to say that's more of a AI thing because I often say, indeed, people treat literature review sections as like a bullet point checklist. I don't think they should. I think literature review sections should have a narrative. They should tell a story. And so I'm going to put that smack dab in the middle. Yes, it's a little bit mechanical to say, a majority of studies find positive effects of X on Y. It's a little mechanical to staple those in-text citations on. That is indeed what you should be doing. But I will say the kind of eloquence, once again, the um, extent to which you describe an insight as extremely well supported in the literature versus there's some mixed results. Those are all things that you should be doing with a little bit of creativity. So even if you take an AI first approach with literature reviews, make sure you put your own flavor on it, or at the very least, make sure you're iterating on that AI output, right? Saying, hey, you don't really cover this as well as you should. But why don't you cover that more? And is that the appropriate approach in your view? And you can get some back and forth. Okay, let me just make one quick plug to our product and demonstrate this a little bit. Moara, Moara. Um, I describe it sometimes as a reference manager, literature review workflow platform. But the point is, I think everyone's going to have a slightly different tool they use for different parts of their paper. Obviously, you're going to have statistical modeling software. I mean, if you're doing an empirical study, obviously you have a reference manager. You'll have a writing application. You'll probably also have some kind of general purpose LLM that you're running everything through. We use Claude for that type of thing, but I just want to show you an example of if you're taking an, let's say, AI first approach in a literature review case. This is a great example of not a very good query. I think we would all know that. Give me a 3-paragraph concise literature review section for this library with in-text citations. Not very good. What is good, or at least what is better, is to say something like, focus especially on, okay, in my own words. You'll notice I don't even focus much on grammar. I could just kind of type out whatever I want, which, by the way, is more or less what I did for this session, this post, YouTube video, the customer email we'll send out, the LinkedIn post. This was just kind of free form writing. That's my approach. And so in this case, focus especially on the distinction between stated preference surveys and observational studies. Fact that little has been covered from the consumer perspective, little's been covered in terms of GHG emission reductions. Tie it in with my paper, which describes how we can potentially integrate cost of carbon calculations with vehicle life cycle metrics. So obviously what I'm getting at is more and more context. Even this is not enough, by the way. What you should have is a long chat that asks questions about your library, trying to figure out how things work, what papers are missing, why might other scholars have missed those papers, etc. But let me click this and we can see what this 3-paragraph version looks like. Okay, and now I'm just going to go ahead and take this and dump it into my AI writing tool and look through it briefly. Okay, so I did a quick review. Here's what we end up with. I mean, first thing I'd say is this. If you clearly going back to the point of kind of the at least getting some value out of AI driven writing, assuming you've got the appropriate context. In this case, it's a library of 44 papers. Sometimes it's going to be a long chat with your methodology back and forth. Ideally, it's both. But nonetheless, I talk often about the fact that even summarizing a bunch of papers in a new paper, a review paper, is a contribution. Of course, what's much more of a contribution is when you have summaries of a bunch of papers in a review paper and you have some kind of insight about how they contradict each other or about an area that's totally underdeveloped. The former, the summaries, that's something that can be done with, a tool like ours or an LLM that can be done fairly effectively. You've got to architect the paper, but it is a contribution and it's a great thing for science that therefore it's becoming much, much easier to do those review papers. However, the latter is more approach B. That's more of I think, a human first, human driven type of finding. In this case, like I say, you'd have to be a real partisan on the issue, in my view, to look at this and say it's not pretty incredible, right? All of these in-text citations, a very clean, nice synthesis that weaves them together and presents their um, key conclusions and most relevant conclusions to your topic directly. And yet it needs some iteration. Just a couple examples, and then we can wrap up here. For instance, these are really nuanced things, but I do feel like these are the types of nuances you should be picking up as this is a bit of an overgeneralization because the materials substitution or materials selection question is important to us. I think we need to get this right. And generally, my understanding, and I think this is true, is that high strength steel usually outperforms even aluminum in life cycle cost models, life cycle analysis assessment models. So this says aluminum and high strength steel offer better cost profiles. I don't think that's generally the key question. So that's one example. These are nuanced, but again, that's why you've got to be an expert in the field. Another example would be this says a critical gap is the near total absence of consumer willingness to pay studies. I know I made that point. I put in that context, but the reality is that's a bit of an overstatement. I've probably reviewed between 5 and 10 studies. Those studies are mostly focused on EVs specifically. And by the way, that doesn't show up here. And I know those are in my library. So that's something I need to iterate on. And then finally, I feel like, and maybe this is a gap in my library, and so I should really call this out, is that I made a kind of a tough transition. I had instructed our agent to put together a tough transition between this literature review and the concept of the social costs of carbon. It's just a technical point, but I think it'd be really helpful to obviously cover or at least mention the broader literature on social costs of carbon, which doesn't have much to do with vehicle lightweighting. That was just a random thing I picked, but the broader point is that's your human review. If you're going to do AI first, you need a human review. If you're going to do human first, you need an AI review. Pretty straightforward. Okay, so really appreciate you watching. Look, I actually view it as a really interesting illustration of everything I've been talking about here, that I went through a process in Claude to actually really come up with the content and go through the thinking here. And I took a screenshot of what maybe Claude had suggested closing out with because I didn't want to forget it. It's a really interesting illustration of this. What I'd say is your reading is your competitive advantage. If you've spent months on a topic, you know more about it than any AI tool. Even weeks, I might say, even in some cases, a few hours of reading through articles. I feel like I certainly know more than an AI tool without context. Even loading up as much context as you can into your model, you'll never be able to load up enough content that fits in weeks or months of reading. So that's the broader point. You quickly become a much better expert in your field than a certainly an LLM that's based on general training data can ever become. B, even one that you stuff as much context into as possible just can't consume the amount of data that you're consuming when you're, say, reading through 20 papers. The goal is getting that knowledge into the best output possible. I would also say this, there's no perfect framework. How you write is your business. This is not something about which anyone has a monopoly on truth, to quote a Microsoft research video that I put out recently on LinkedIn. This is my framework that I've described here. This is how I would think about it. Pick from it what works best for you. So I'm going to be putting out more and more on this. I'm very fascinated by the topic of AI for research writing. But look, really appreciate everyone's time. Let me know if you have any comments in the comment section. Feel free to subscribe. Thanks, everyone.